Welcome to this special journey. Please find a comfortable place to sit. Imagine we are sitting together by a warm, glowing campfire. The stars are bright above us and the air is cool. Tonight, I want to tell you a story about a place that touches the stars. It is a story about a mountain so tall that it is called the roof of the world. This is the story of Mount Everest. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are standing at the bottom of a giant. This giant does not have a face, but it has a spirit. It is made of rock, ice, and ancient stories. This giant is Mount Everest. For many people, this mountain is more than just a pile of stones. It is a symbol of our greatest dreams and our deepest fears. Have you ever looked at the sky and wondered what it feels like to touch it? That is the feeling people have when they see Everest. It stands there, quiet and strong, waiting for those brave enough to look up. It is the highest point on our planet. If the Earth were a house, Everest would be the very top of the roof. In this story, we are going to travel to the heart of Asia. We will visit the borders of Nepal and China. We will learn about how this mountain was born and why it is so difficult to climb. But more than that, we will talk about the people who call it home. This is not just a lesson about geography. It is a story about wonder. It is about the way humans always want to reach higher and see further. Are you ready to begin our climb? Let's take our first step together into the clouds. It will be a long journey, but I promise the view from the top is beautiful. Think about your own big dreams as we start this walk. To understand Everest, we must travel back in time. We need to go back millions and millions of years. At that time, the world looked very different than it does today. The giant pieces of land we call plates were moving across the ocean. One of these pieces was India, and the other was Eurasia. Imagine two massive trucks driving toward each other very slowly. They are moving only a few centimeters every year. Finally, they hit each other. Because they are so heavy, they cannot stop. Instead of braking, the ground begins to push upward. It folds and rises toward the sky. This is how the Himalaya mountains were born. It was a slow, powerful dance of the earth. Mount Everest was the prize of this collision. It rose higher than all the other peaks around it. Even today, the mountain is still growing. It grows a tiny bit every year because those plates are still pushing. Nature is very patient, isn't it? It took millions of years to create this masterpiece. When you look at the gray rock of the summit, you are looking at history. Some of the rocks at the top were once at the bottom of the ocean. Imagine that! The highest place on Earth used to be under the sea. It shows us that the world is always changing, even if we cannot see it happening today. Now, let's look at a map to see exactly where we are. If you want to find Everest, you must look at the coordinates 27 degrees 59 minutes 17 seconds north and 68 degrees 55 minutes 31 seconds east. It sits right on the border between two countries, Nepal to the south and China to the north. But Everest is not alone in this cold, high world. It lives in a neighborhood of giants. There are more than 40 mountains in this area that are higher than 7,000 meters. Some of its neighbors, like Lhotse and Nuptse, are almost as famous as Everest itself. Together, they form a wall of white and gray that looks like the teeth of the earth. Below these peaks, there are rivers of ice called glaciers. Two of the most famous are the Rongbuk Glacier and the Khumbu Glacier. These glaciers are like slow-moving roads of ice. They carve deep valleys into the sides of the mountains. They are beautiful, but they can also be very dangerous for people who walk on them. When you stand in this place, you feel very small. Everything around you is massive. The valleys are deep and the peaks are impossibly high. It is a world of blue sky and white snow. There are no trees here and no green grass. It is a kingdom of rock and ice, sitting far above the rest of the world. Can you picture it? It is a place where the air is quiet and the horizon never ends. Living on Mount Everest is not easy. In fact, for most living things, it is impossible. The environment there is one of the harshest on our planet. As you go higher, the world changes. The air becomes very thin and the weather becomes a powerful enemy. How cold does it get? Near the summit, temperatures can drop to -40 degrees Celsius. That is so cold that water freezes instantly and skin can freeze in minutes. Even in the summer, it rarely rises above freezing. The wind is also a powerful force on the mountain. The winds on Everest are like a giant machine. They can reach speeds of 160 kilometers per hour. That is as fast as a hurricane. When the wind is that strong, humans cannot stand up. But the biggest challenge for climbers is the air itself. At the top of Everest, there is very little oxygen. In fact, there is only about 26% of the oxygen that we have at sea level. This means your body has to work 4 times harder just to take one breath. This area is often called the death zone. In the death zone, the human body cannot heal itself or stay warm. Every minute spent there is a struggle to stay alive. Most climbers must use metal tanks of oxygen to help them breathe. Without this extra air, their brains and muscles would stop working. In this breathless world, every step is a victory. It is a place of blue shadows and white silence, where the laws of life are different. It reminds us that we are fragile guests in a kingdom of ice. To stand there, you must be more than just strong. You must have a heart that refuses to give up. Does it sound scary? Perhaps, but it is also where humans find out who they truly are. If you look at a photograph of Mount Everest, you might see something strange at the top. Even on a clear day, there is often a long white shape trailing from the peak. People call this the cloud flag or the banner cloud. It looks like the mountain is flying a giant flag made of snow. How does this happen? It's a beautiful trick of physics. The strong winds hit the side of the mountain and are forced upward. As the air rises, it cools down and turns into water vapor. This creates a cloud that stays attached to the peak while the wind blows it out like a ribbon. This flag tells a story to the people below. If the flag is very long, it means the winds are very strong at the top. If the flag is small, it might be a good day to try and reach the summit. It's like the mountain is speaking to us, giving us a sign about its mood. Everest is also covered in snow all year round. It never melts completely, even in the summer. Under that snow is a hard pyramid of rock. The shape of the mountain is very sharp and clear. This unique shape, combined with the white banner in the sky, makes Everest easy to recognize. It is the king of the mountains, wearing a crown of clouds and a robe of eternal ice. It is a sight that stays in your heart forever once you see it. For a long time, people thought it was impossible to reach the top of Everest. They thought the human body simply could not survive the height. But humans are very curious and very brave. In the early 1900s, many teams tried to climb it, but they did not succeed. Everything changed in 1953. A man from New Zealand named Edmund Hillary and a Sherpa from Nepal named Tenzing Norgay made history. They were the first people to stand on the very top of the world. When they reached the summit, they didn't stay long, only about 15 minutes. They shook hands, took photos, and shared a small piece of chocolate. A few years later, in 1960, another great achievement happened. A Chinese expedition reached the summit from the north side. This was very difficult because the north side is very cold and steep. These early climbers did not have the high-tech clothes or tools we have today. They had simple gear and a lot of courage. Why did they do it? Many people asked them this question. The most famous answer came from a climber named George Mallory. He said, "Because it is there." These words remind us that humans love a challenge. We want to see what is on the other side of the hill. We want to know if we can do the impossible. Those first steps on the summit opened the door for many others to follow. Today, Everest is a very busy place. Every year during the months of April and May, a small city of tents appears at the bottom of the mountain. This is called base camp. Approximately 1,000 climbers come from all over the world to try their luck. They wait for a window of good weather when the winds are calm. Modern climbing is very different from the old days. Climbers have better maps, bottled oxygen, and expert guides. However, it is still very dangerous. The mountain does not care how much money you have or how good your gear is. You must still walk every step yourself.